This is Alan Michelle with Poker as a Side Hustle, showing you real live hand examples. So I just showed a hand against a Maniac before where I had pocket kings and lost 2-7-8 suited. All the money went in pre-flop. It was against a Maniac, so kind of showcasing how I play against Maniacs, how to exploit them. So, and this is just a fun example. So we get a raise from a standard tight aggressive player who is in the effective low jack right here. I am in the cutoff with pocket queens. I 3-bet pocket queens. I 3-bet from all positions all the time, pretty much. Not pretty much, I do. This player I've played 8,000 hands with. They are a break-even player. So their percent raise is 10%. Their 3-bet is 3%. So, like I said, standard tight aggressive player. I 3-bet, I get a cold call from the small blind. So I've talked about this before. The small blind should not be cold calling a 3-bet ever, really. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. The small blind, if you look at GTO strategy, is going to tell you it's a 3-bet or fold spot, just because you're going to be valuing in the big blind. A lot of the time you're going to have to play multi-way from out of position. It's not very profitable to come in pre-flop as a caller from the small blind. You want to either be the aggressor or just be out of the hand. The player that called their VPIP, so this is through 2,000 hands, they voluntarily put money in the pot 18% of the time. They raise 5% of the time, they 3-bet 1% of the time. So this is a nitty player. My guess is they have something that they feel like it's too good to fold, like maybe ace-king offsuit, maybe pocket jacks, maybe pocket queens. Obviously, I block pocket queens. The thing I'm worried about them having there is pocket kings. But because a player who only 3-bets 1% of hands may not 4-bet pocket kings, they may be worried about being up against pocket aces, and they may just call. It's possible that they just cold call there with pocket aces, but even for a bad player, that's a little bit weird, because you're very likely just gonna have to go multi-way with pocket aces, and who wants to go multi-way to a flop with pocket aces? You want to get your money in whenever you're ahead. People think that bad players tend to think the way to get tricky in poker is to slow play your good hands. No. The way to get tricky in poker is to fast play your draws and your bluffs, right? So it's not, hey, I'm going to play passively with my good hands and my marginal hands. No. I'm going to play aggressively with my good hands and my draws, and I'm going to play pot control with my marginal hands. So just kind of a side note there. And the Maniac, who I had just played recently, goes ahead and shoves pre-flop. Now, I'm sitting there with pocket queens. I kind of love this because the open raiser, which is very unlikely they have kings or aces. The guy who's shoving here, his stats now are up to, he's 3-bet 10% of the time through 144 hands at this point. He's playing wide. He's done some weird shit. I think I saw him get all in with maybe, that might have actually been this hand, but he's gotten it all in with some really bad hands. So kind of just hoping that the initial raiser goes ahead and folds here. If he calls, I might be in trouble. Then it's a decision. But the pre-flop initial raiser goes ahead and folds. So I think this is a pretty easy call for me. The player behind, like I said, they might have kings. I don't think they're slow playing aces. But it's an interesting, it is interesting. You do have to be conscious of them, but I think if I call, they're probably just going to fold out a lot of stuff. That's going to leave some dead money in the pot. And I'm going to be heads up all in with a very strong hand against a Maniac who's just playing very wide. So I do go ahead and opt to call there. Flop, run out. There is a king there, so you're worried, okay, maybe they have ace-king or something pretty strong. So we'll go ahead and see what they played here. So this villain cold 4-bet shoved from the big blind, 6-7 offsuit. So I go ahead and scoop a pretty nice pot there. You can see it's over 300 big blinds, $600 at 1-2 online. So that's a nice little scoop for me. And like I said, if you're playing against a tight aggressive player who you have a lot of hand history with, pocket queens whenever you're up against a shove like that from one of the blinds, that's not always going to be a call. You might be up against ace king some percentage of the time. And, you can run the math and look at it, but you need to look at how often your opponent's going to do that with ace king. If they're doing it 100% of the time with ace king, then I think you have a closer call. But even if they're only doing it with aces, kings, and ace king, best case scenario, you're looking at about a little over 50% equity, queens against ace king, and then you're an 80-20 underdog whenever you're up against aces or kings. Tight aggressive players aren't going to be shoving pocket jacks. Their bluff there is going to be ace king. So against a tight aggressive player in the blinds shoving like that, I think that's going to be a fold. But whenever you're up against a maniac, like I said, don't be a robot. Get in there and gamble. And it's easy to say gamble whenever you have pocket queens. This isn't really that big of a gamble, but it's fun to get the money in pre-flop like that and see what happens. And I'm going to be showing a few more hands from this opponent. Yesterday was a pretty good day, so